Abraham Lincoln said it. The worst thing we do for those we love are the things that they could do and should do for themselves. People aren't going to hide their abilities. Okay. People need to be out there displaying those abilities, and the marketplace is going to be calibrating you all the way down. But the most important currency for humans' ability to survive and reproduce their DNA, i.e., perform their life's function, is to be esteemed. Well, there's one bizarre twist in this thing, and that is, what if you've already got more than you deserve?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beat Your Genes podcast. This is episode number 342, and in this episode, Dr. Lisle discusses the ego trap. In past episodes, Dr. Lisle's talked about the ego trap in the context of personal goals and the pleasure trap. And so I'm going to put a couple of the episodes that Dr. Lisle went over, kind of a lengthy discussion about the ego trap, somewhere around here. But in today's show, he talks about a question with regards to the ego trap with his favorite sport, basketball. So we've got a question about LeBron James and his son, and whether or not LeBron James is putting his son in the ego trap unintentionally with some of the things that he's doing. So if you're not a basketball fan, I'm not a huge basketball fan. I still really enjoyed this discussion. I know a little bit. I've heard some of the terms that he uses in the news throughout the show, but should be a fun discussion. As always, if you have questions that you want me to read on the show to Dr. Lisle so that he can discuss it, you can email me directly at beatyourgenes@gmail.com, or you can email me through the website, beatyourgenes.org. Otherwise, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the video. All right, Dr. Lisle, how are you doing today?
Good to see you, Nathan.
Good to see you too. So today's show is a question about the ego trap, and we have had you discuss the ego trap in previous episodes. I'm going to put the name of the episodes right over here for our listeners who want to go back and listen. But I was hoping that you can give us any updated version of the ego of the ego trap, since I think the last time you talked about it was maybe 200 episodes ago, or 100 episodes ago in a big episode. So
Yeah.
that's what the topic is today. But it starts with our question about your favorite sport, Dr. Lisle, basketball. So the question is, dear Dr. Lisle, do you think that LeBron James is ego trapping his son Bronny? He has tweeted recently that Bronny is going to do extremely well, and he just needs a bit of time. But in reality, I believe the kid looks like he's not yet cut out for the D League. Do you think LeBron's son will succeed in not feeling bad for living up to people's high expectations and just play the game because he loves it? Or will he react like a teenager with pushy parents wanting him to get straight A's, knowing that he can't?
That's a really good question. And it's a question that I had, swirling around for the last 2 years, as LeBron has acted like a stage mom. You know what I mean? Like a narcissistic stage mom, that can hardly hold her urine until her kid gets on the stage and gets the bright lights. So I've been disgusted with LeBron James's process here. I think he's deeply in the wrong. His son, the only mitigating issue with respect to this is that his son, from everything that I can gather, is a remarkable young human being. Okay, from everything that I can discern, and I've done a little bit of homework on this problem because as a psychologist that's super interested in basketball, I'm watching a train wreck. You know what I mean? Basically, I'm watching a parent do everything wrong. And you're watching the parent's narcissism just completely roll over all reasonable judgment. Okay. So LeBron James should not have been in the middle of this. He should not be telling everybody that when the kid is barely able to start for USC, which is a very lousy team at this point, and the kid, scores 3 points a game and gets 1 assist and shoots 30% from the floor. And LeBron's talking about how Bronny could help them on the Lakers right now. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like the guy's completely delusional. And but the son, amazingly, from everything that I can tell, is a very even keel, very emotionally stable. Um, LeBron himself is actually quite emotionally stable, and Bronny is very, very athletic young man, extremely hardworking. As LeBron has super high conscientiousness, extraordinarily hardworking guy, and so the kid inherited, some of LeBron's athleticism, obviously. This is a national level class athlete. It's not a world class athlete the way LeBron is. And and so, Bronny James belongs on an NCAA Division I school. He would be a sophomore this coming year. He would be a starting point guard at a 40th ranked, NCAA Division I school as a sophomore. He would be a credible point guard. He is a pass first kid all the way. The world does not appreciate that. In other words, they don't appreciate the value of a pass first point guard. Everybody's got to score 25 points a game or they're not worth anything. They don't understand that, a lot of your greatest players aren't ever looking to score. They only score because the defense is so terrified by their passing abilities that the defense gives them shots. Okay. John Stockton is the all-time NBA leader by far in assists. And John Stockton, scored some points. He was a very, very efficient shooter, and he was a very dangerous shooter. But John Stockton was never looking to score. He was always looking to optimize his team, and so he ran that game like a mathematician. Bronny James is similar. In other words, Bronny James is a completely unselfish, like no ego, team first, hardworking, extremely conscientious, and interestingly enough, LeBron James is similar. LeBron James has averaged 27 points a game. It looks like he's a big scorer. That was not because LeBron James was ever looking for the shot first. He never looked for the shot first. LeBron James, I have great respect for his basketball IQ and his team first decision making. I never saw LeBron James try to do anything for his own glory on a basketball court. So it's a little bit of a shock to watch the parenting chip just freaking run amok and just step all over that. You know what I mean? Like the greatest of all in my judgment, like a Michael Jordan, although he was a tremendous scorer, he was not me first either. Okay. I believe Kobe Bryant was. Kobe Bryant had a narcissistic look to those eyes and an attitude about shooting the ball that although he was an outstanding player, he was a narcissistic player. Kobe was looking for Kobe first, and you as a basketball player or anybody that plays a team sport, you can pick up these attitudes about people, and you can pick up whether or not are they out there for themselves, or are they out to show off to other people, or are they trying to earn esteem within our team to try to help the team win? There's a very, very subtle, it can be a difficult difference to pick up sometimes. And so I think Kobe fooled a lot of people, and he certainly was good enough that he got away with it. But the truth is, Kobe made decisions that made the Lakers worse, trying to make Kobe look better. LeBron James never did that. I've never seen that, not for 2 seconds. Okay. And Michael Jordan did not do that either. Michael Jordan was a relentless optimize the team outcome, even though the whole world was singing his praises. Caitlin Clark is very similar in the women's game. There's been great women's players, I'm sure, but I've never seen such a person have so much adulation put upon them and yet be absolutely relentlessly team first. Even though, that means you got to take your own shot when it's best for the team. These are beautiful people to watch play. I absolutely adore watching Caitlin Clark play because I'm watching that personality play its game. Bronny James is the same. I've watched him enough. I know that that's how he is. It's in his blood. I would love to play with that kid. He will be a joy to play with. But is he an NBA level player? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Okay. He is, we're not seeing it. We're not seeing the NBA level athleticism on the offensive side of the ball, other than maybe a journeyman point guard. So I believe that Bronny James will eventually be a credible 50th percentile NBA non-scoring, team management point guard. That's what I think. He may never get off the bench. He may always be a second unit kind of a player. To be pushing this kid into the NBA so that you can play with your son. LeBron James has been talking for years. Oh, yes, I'd want to play with my son. Yeah, first time it will have ever been done. Oh, well, this is LeBron James now. Um, he didn't do it for himself, but he's doing it for his genes. Like he can't keep his corn pecker out of it. That kid should be going through 4 years and having a collegiate experience. That's what he deserves. The kid has the emotional stability. He can't stand up to his dad's pressure to actually get him to do this, to declare for the draft. And LeBron has tremendous force. He basically is half-assed running the new Los Angeles Lakers front office. So therefore, LeBron James basically insisted that the Lakers choose Bronny James. So with their second to 56th pick in the draft, or whatever the hell Bronny was late in the second round, Bronny James, if his name was not James, he would not have been selected had there been 4 rounds of the draft instead of 2. He's nowhere near that level of talent. Okay. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, as a graduating senior, demonstrating to the world's basketball minds and the NBA scouts, would this guy have maybe been a second round draft choice 3 years from now, at 22 years old, if he developed, if he got better, if it turned out that he actually turned out to be a potentially useful second unit facilitative point guard, pass first, high defense point guard, good chance. Okay, I've watched him. There's a good chance he could get there, and he may get there sooner than we think, because it turns out that athleticism is there, and God knows the basketball IQ is there. So I love the kid's game. What I've learned about is I think that I would love to play with him. I think from everything that I can tell, he's inherently humble, very hardworking, extremely competitive, team first young man. His dad is just completely putting a turd in the punch bowl. It's disgusting. Okay. Do I think the kid can stand up to it? Yeah, I think he can. I think, from what I can tell, I think this kid could stand up to anything. So I think that he instantly, it's not long before he always gets the respect of his teammates, because they can see his character in his every move. So I could be wrong. We could find out that Bronny James got caught, snorting cocaine at a big party in Hollywood. And, some crazy thing like that could happen, but I don't believe that we're going to see it. Okay. I think we're going to discover that this kid is what I think he is. And I think that he will work his tail off. I think he said that he would rather not be on the team with his dad. He'd rather be down in Charlotte. You know what I mean? He'd rather be somewhere else, away from the bright lights, trying to make his way and earn his respect and place in the NBA. That's what his dream is. I think that LeBron, out of his own narcissism, fast forwarded this thing 3 years so that he could be on LeBron's timeline, so that he could play with his kid and be the only human being on earth that ever had that happen. I think it's totally disgusting. And I think that we found LeBron James, I believe, is a pretty damn fine human being from everything that I can tell. But you got an awful lot of choices. You got an awful lot of limelight. Got an awful lot of people looking really hard at who this guy is. I've seen him play. I've watched the passes he makes. I watch him do interviews. I watch him give credit to teammates. I actually think that this is a hell of a human being. But we're watching. He didn't beat his genes. His genes just ran roughshod over the one place that they needed to be protective. He got seduced by trying to put his genes up on top of the world. Okay. And he did not let his child, this is, Abraham Lincoln said it. The worst thing we do for those we love are the things that they could do and should do for themselves. And LeBron James should have had that quote on his mirror for the last 10 years so that he saw that every morning. Okay. He didn't do it. And he did exactly what Abe Lincoln would have told him not to do.
So in that context, Dr. Lisle, can you go over, give us an overview. What's the ego trap? What is this psychological process going on between father and son?
Yeah, well, the ego trap, this is ripe for a phenomenal ego trap, but I don't think it will happen because I think Bronny James has the courage and the conscientiousness. He will grit his teeth and just face down this ego trap. And but it's not, LeBron is making this very difficult on him psychologically. But I think LeBron also knows that the kid is made of steel. So he knows the kid can handle it. And so he's going to just damn well plow over everybody and just go ahead and set the expectations high. It's so bad. Okay. You couldn't mess this up any worse. But I think LeBron gets away with it. And I think when LeBron passes away and Bronny's a 50-year-old man and he's had whatever process that he's had happen, he's going to look back on his dad and there will be mixed feelings. There will be great love and admiration and appreciation. And there will also be a little bit of bitterness. Like, man, why did you do that to me? And I can't imagine that little seed isn't in there. So what the ego trap is the following, that this is a feature that comes out of the nature of the way motivation works. So I say human motivation. It's all the ego trap is undoubtedly unique to the human motivational system because of the nature of the way human processes work. So the motivation is about the dynamic tension in an animal's nervous system in order to acquire resources. So you take action and you contemplate action. In other words, the workspace of the mind and the movement of the muscles. Those two things, what they do is they make it possible for an animal to change its location with respect to features of the environment. So it might be staying exactly where you are while the environment changes and things improve for you. Okay, if you're a predator, you are motivated to stay exactly where you are while the gazelle wander closer to you because they don't see you in the tall grass. Okay, but that is, you are being motivated to make that decision in order to change your relationship between self and the environment. So all goals, i.e., motivation, is about goals. It's what a goal is. It's a hypothesized or theoretically potential space that you could be in with respect to some kind of a resource. So you are here now. The goal is over here. That goal could be going to the refrigerator and getting a peach. Okay. And so literally, if you take one step towards the refrigerator, you're one step closer to it. Then you take another step, you're one step closer. You take another step, you're one step closer. You open the door, you're one step closer. You put your hand in and grab the peach, you're one step closer. You pull it up to your mouth, it's one step closer. You finally sink your teeth into it, you're there. Okay? So that's what that goal is it's going to involve a sequence of operations, both mental and physical, in order for an animal to close the distance between where they are now and a hypothetical superior space. The organism is constantly analyzing its options. So there isn't one other superior space. There's 17 of them. In other words, there's all kinds of things that you could be doing. A mosquito can only move in so many directions at once. If it runs into a wall, it just takes out, 50% of all the movements that it could make. But there's a sphere of options, of different directions, vectors that it could go. But a human being is far more complicated. It has, it's calculating not only whether I move this way, but what will be the circumstances when I get there, and that would enable me to do this, that, or the other. So a human being is literally studying for its 10th grade math test so that it can get a good grade, so that it'll have a higher GPA in high school, so that it can get into a good undergrad, so that it can do really well there, so that it can go to med school, so that it can then be a surgeon, so that it can, buy a Porsche Carrera and finally get a girlfriend. Okay. That's what's going on inside that 10th grade nerd with the thick glasses. He's realizing if I integrate a set of behaviors like this, I may one day be able to be orgasming inside some female who's 30% better looking than I am. That is exactly what that son of a bitch is doing. And if we can't see that, we're being pretty obtuse. Okay. So anyway, the point is that's what goals and motivation are. It's a calculus that is driving the willingness to expend time and energy to change our circumstances, and we make those decisions in order to optimize the effort that we put in at these things, the willingness to choose this goal as opposed to this goal, this goal, this goal, this goal. There might be, in a complicated human mind, there might be 10 goals that are being hypothesized right now for the next 5 minutes. But what will happen is one of them will be executed. And so the one that will be executed will be the one that has the highest cost-benefit ratio with respect to gene survival efficiency. So essentially, the organism is an energy conservation machine attempting to utilize its time and energy in pursuit of gene survival units. Okay? That's how it works. Now, what's going to turn out that human beings have resources that they are seeking that are akin to, but somewhat different than the resources that a lot of other animals seek. So a lot of animals don't seek any status. A wolverine doesn't seek any status. A tiger doesn't seek any status. Animals that live in groups, they will arrive at status as they fuss at the other chickens and peck the food, and then get their hens pecked, and they'll get pushed around. You could call hen pecking status seeking on the part of a chicken, but it doesn't look anything like what a human status seeking looks like. Human status seeking is we're trying to have people love us, adore us, find us attractive, be willing to trade with us. That's not what henpecking is. Henpecking is I'm bigger and tougher than you. If I come around, you'd better yield the seed. Okay? I mean, that's it. It's just a dominance hierarchy. Human beings, status seeking or esteem seeking is what we might call it. By the way, there's a reason we call it esteem instead of status. If we call it status, everybody gets defensive as shit and they don't even want to listen to me. Okay? So about 10 years ago, I learned that I better stop using the word status that I've been using for 20 years. Because every time I did that, everybody starts getting defensive and starts arguing with me that they're not really doing it for status. And it's like, yes, you are doing it for status, for God's sakes.
Okay? Status defense.
So I finally retired status as a concept, but every once in a while we want to bring it to the fore, particularly within the coalition, so that everybody gets clear what it is that we're really talking about, so it can't be mistaken. Yeah, it's status seeking, for God's sakes. Not in the sense of pseudo status about people see that you're in a gold Corvette and therefore you must be cool. Yeah, that's status seeking. But status seeking is also looking good. It's also telling a funny joke. It's also being clever. It's also showing that your bow and arrow could fly straighter and further than the other guy's bow and arrow. It's any place where you demonstrate your abilities to help other people or your superiority over your sexual competitors or other competitors. In other words, you're competing for esteem, i.e., to be valued in some fashion. And so so it's going to turn out that human beings, they try to get esteem or a place in a status hierarchy where they believe they're going to expend time and energy in order to seek that esteem, if they think that they can probably get it. So if I want to pick up a tennis racket right now, I don't think, well, gee, if I work hard enough, I can get to Wimbledon. It's not even occurring to me. It doesn't even cross my mind that it's not even a contemplated hypothesis. Even if I'm watching Wimbledon, it might even cross my mind, gee, I wonder if I could have done that 30 years ago. You know what I mean? It might cross my mind like, ooh, look at that. Well, that would be really cool. Oh, they make $5 million if they win. Like those things probably will throw through my subconscious. It might not even arrive in consciousness, might not even glance up there. So what we are aware of and what your conscious brain will learn about it's the unconscious processes with the unconscious mind being, I mean, the conscious awareness being simply a little flashlight that's giving you little snippets. It's like, in scary movies like Silence of the Lambs, like every other second you can see a little flash of light and you can see what's going on. That's what the consciousness is relative to the underlying motivational system in a human, is that your consciousness is showing you little bits as to what the unconscious has calculated. So you'll have a thing like, oh, the peach is in the refrigerator. You'll have that little light will go on your head. Then a second later, it's kind of out of your head, but it's close. But you've actually plotted that you're going to go get that peach soon. But then you get distracted by a phone call because something's more important. So but ultimately, your consciousness is a reflection. It's a echo of what is actually being done in the unconsciousness, which is where all the thinking is taking place. And so the so what you do is you are motivated and feeling drawn to put time and energy in to changes of in order to change your location with respect to what you might do this by getting in front of somebody and bragging about something that you've accomplished. Oh, you just changed your location and you just put time and energy in order to try to impress some other brain so that they would esteem you more relative to the other people, relative to how they did before. If they didn't know anything about you before that conversation, then they wouldn't have esteemed you and they would have walked right past you at the fancy party. But because you went up to her and you said, hey, I'm Nico blah blah, and I'm a Formula One driver, and I won such and such. It's like, oh, well, now she esteems you more, and therefore you're more likely to get laid. Okay, this is what's transpiring in humans, and so we are seeking esteem, and we are trying to get actually as much of it as we can by along with other values. But it turns out, in other words, you want to be as healthy as you can. You just soon be as wealthy as you can. But you ultimately, the most important value that human beings are generally seeking, other than their own survival. In other words, suddenly esteem doesn't matter if you're in kidney failure. Okay, so but the most important currency for humans' ability to survive and reproduce their DNA, i.e., perform their life's function, is to be esteemed. And so we are seeking that feedback from other people that indicates that they esteem us. And in order to do that, we have to calculate who we should be getting esteem from. I'm not going to be getting esteem from tennis fans that are watching Wimbledon. That's impossible. Okay. So, I mean, not for my tennis proficiency. That cannot happen. So I don't bother. So the esteem that you seek is the esteem that you are likely to be able to get. Why are you likely to be able to get it? Because you know that you've got the competitive chops to compete in that arena to get that esteem. And so therefore you're seriously contemplating putting in the time and energy to get it. Okay. Getting esteem usually involves some kind of competitive process. If you're carving a horse out of wood in your basement, that's a competitive process. People are going to be comparing that carving to other horses done by other people, and they're going to make a comparison and decide which one they're going to buy or which one they're going to admire or which of the two artists they're going to sleep with. In other words, there is a competitive process, whether there's anybody else there or not. So you are engaged in esteem seeking, and esteem seeking is a competitive process that involves you doing a calibration of how much esteem that you already have in that domain. What do they already think of you? Okay. If they esteem you at all. So, so for example, if you say, well, I'm going to surprise everybody, I'm going to practice the piano in my basement for the next 15 years, then I'm going to play like Mozart. Nobody's even going to know it was there. Okay. But that's a lousy and absurd bunch of decisions. You could have gotten esteem all along the way and you might have needed it 10 years ago. So it's going to turn out that people aren't going to hide their abilities. Okay. People need to be out there displaying those abilities, and the marketplace is going to be calibrating you all the way down. Okay. So they already have an idea about what you're capable of doing. And so now you know if you're going to earn more esteem, in other words, what are you trying to do? Trying to get as much as I can. So you're attempting to try to figure out how to spend your time and energy most efficiently in order to acquire as much esteem as you could possibly get. Well, there's one bizarre twist in this thing, and that is what if you've already got more than you deserve? So if you've already got more than you deserve, which is a relatively unusual situation. In other words, most of the time, the world is really stingy. They don't want to give you any more esteem than you deserve. And a lot of times they're going to be grudging it. Okay. I mean, good God, look at Caitlin Clark. The whole damn WNBA, except for two of her teammates, was like begrudging all the esteem that she was bringing in as the most incredible collegiate women's basketball player I've ever seen. And so the whole world looked at this thing, and everybody's fascinated to look at her. And all of the TV ratings are all about Caitlin Clark. Forget the WNBA. It's Caitlin Clark's world. The rest of you girls are just living in it. You're the props to the Caitlin Clark show. It's not Caitlin's fault that that's true. She's a sweetheart, and she's a competitive sweetheart, but she's a sweetheart. She's not a pig, okay? And that's all the more reason everybody loves this kid, because she is actually a Bronny James and a Michael Jordan. She isn't a hog. Anyway, the long and short of it is the whole damn league's bitter, and so are a whole bunch of other people. All their friends and relatives are bitter, okay? So, no, they're not just going to heap a bunch of esteem on you, even if it looks like you've earned it. It's generally you're going to get pushback from competitive processes. You'll have some people that are your champions that basically want to make friends with you, and then if you rise, they rise. Okay, that's fine. That's the beautiful part of human nature. You can get teammates that way, but the long and short of it is that most of the time you're in a situation where the world is going to underestimate you for what it is that you might be capable of, and you're going to have to go earn it. So, and you're going to run a cost benefit analysis on whether or not you can earn it and whether or not it would be worth earning. Okay. So you're going to run your own competitive process. You're going to put out efforts. You're going to get feedback from those efforts and see how much progress you made. And you're going to estimate whether or not you're going to be able to get that esteem. And that's going to influence how motivated you are to continue. Simple, very reasonable process. This is just an animal basically mapping out whether or not it's worth chasing those fish. Okay. But humans have a unique problem, and that is it is possible that you could have gotten lucky early. You could have been a 12-year-old that had a cute role in Hollywood and they gave you an Oscar. Okay. So, oh, isn't it exciting? Look at this great talent that has been discovered. Okay. Or you could have been born to one of the two or three greatest basketball players that ever lived. And you inherited, a percentage of that person's athleticism, and you inherited a great deal of their psychology. So you inherited emotional stability and very high intense competitive psychology and tremendous conscientiousness. And you actually also inherited some of the spatial and physiological three-dimensional problem solving that involves the game of basketball. Okay. So Bronny James has that. He has an elite level of geometric calculation that is you can't learn it. I mean, you can get better, you can learn, but I'm telling you, it's genetic. Okay. It's just like Tom Brady. Tom Brady just has outstanding decision-making capability in the back of a pocket looking who to throw the ball to. I mean, it's just in there. Okay. You can get better. You can work hard. You can optimize your abilities. You can be a better athletic specimen. You can be Colin Kaepernick, who was a hell of a lot better athlete than Tom Brady ever was. But Colin Kaepernick could never be Tom Brady. And that's because he didn't have that chip. Okay. Caitlin Clark has an incredible chip for the moving pieces of a basketball court. Okay, this is clearly inherited from ancestors in Africa that knew how to work as a team to hunt. It's clear you're just watching a hunting party. This is what's going on, and Caitlin Clark is about to throw a spear. Okay, and she's going to throw a spear that nobody else would have thrown as quickly, as accurately as she did. That's because she's as a native imagination about that problem. The Anyway, Bronny James got some secret sauce, all the way to being one of the 1,000 best basketball players that is on earth today. Okay. Unfortunately, there's 360 slots in the NBA. There's not 1,000. Okay. So the difference between the 360th best player and the 1,000th best player on earth is not huge. In other words, they're kissing cousins. They're pretty close. On a given day, number 1,000 can outplay number 360. So he's not going to look bad. He's not going to embarrass himself. He half-ass belongs in the NBA, and it will look like it. Okay, he's too competent to not look. He will not look lost out on the floor at all. But he doesn't really belong there. And so LeBron James is telling everybody that he does. LeBron James is swearing up and down that he does. LeBron James is forcing the Los Angeles Lakers front office to make decisions as if he belongs there. Okay. So effectively, you're being given more status than you deserve. And it's a really shitty place to be. This is the ego trap. So if you are given more status than you deserve, you are uncomfortable. You are attempting to avoid the demonstrations of your ability rather than go embrace them. It's the difference between being the heavyweight champ who you don't think that you can win and being the challenger who think that you can. And this is, many of the great stories in human motivation have been told through the Rocky movies. The Rocky movies are beautiful, one right after the next. Each one of them has their own message, and so the ego trap is Rocky 3, where he is already the champ, but Clubber Lang is actually better, and his manager knows that he's better, so his manager Mickey is avoiding this guy, and Rocky is sort of afraid, but sort of not afraid. He's not really sure. And then he goes out there and gets freaking creamed. And he's afraid actually going into that match that he is not as good. And he has to face it. So, and it's a hell of a story. But anyway, the ego trap is an ugly place. It's an awful place. It's sickening. It's people will have all kinds of emotional cues that tell them that they're in the ego trap. They have a sense of dread of what the challenge is. They want to avoid it. They'll sometimes it's not uncommon that they'll feel suicidal. They'll have suicidal ideation that will flash through their head in the ego trap. Sometimes they will feel a sense of dread. They will try to escape whatever this challenge is as much as they can.
It reminds me, I think Dr. Hawk said it, is that if it's true that there's nothing more motivating than to beat someone's expectations, then it must be true that it's nothing more demotivating to have someone's expectations be so high that they feel they're unbeatable. Beautiful.
It's beautifully said. I had never put that together, but great for Jen. That's right. So there's a reason why this thing has a name. And that is that, the two traps that I've named in this life have been the pleasure trap, which is a ubiquitous and incredibly dangerous and multifaceted process where the human being or animal is being over-rewarded by artificial stimulation that it wasn't designed for, and therefore its motivational system is trapped into what is in fact self-destructive. Okay? So the pleasure trap is a multi-phase problem. The new one is cell phones and social media. In other words, we're watching humanity being led around by the nose by supernormal stimuli and having lives being shortened, cheapened, basically have time and energy wasted because they're not treating the body and the mind the way that the system was designed to be treated. Okay, so that's the pleasure trap. The ego trap is this very curious, self-destructive motivation. So people have, wondered why it is that they would see this. Now, I believe Sigmund Freud looked at that, looked at both probably the pleasure trap and the ego trap and other things, and said there must be a death instinct. And it's like it's not wasn't crazy for him to think that. Like, what the hell is that? Okay. We can see instead that it's nothing of the kind. That what this is that this is a deeply strategic, desperate maneuver that basically says, if they think that I can get straight A's, but I can't, then how can I hold on to that status? Because that status is inherently valuable. It's the most valuable currency there is to humans. And if I've already got it, then how can I possibly keep it? And if I cannot keep it by working hard and working like hell and getting a 3.8 this semester because I cannot get that 4 out, I don't believe that it's possible. Okay. If I'm pretty sure that I can't do it because I don't think I'm going to get an A in organic chemistry while I'm taking calculus and microbiology and physics. In other words, I don't think I can pull this off. Okay. A good move is to crash the car, completely mess it up, make it so clear that you didn't try, that when you flunk out, that it's like, well, he could have done it, but wow, he got into booze or he chased Marianne and that he broke up with his girlfriend and or whatever. In other words, we basically conjure up plausible deniability why we did not actually achieve what everybody expected us to achieve. Okay. And so this is why I believe the ego trap and the pleasure trap in certain instances will be co-occurring. In other words, people will get into drugs because the expectations after they wrote some bestseller or they had a great acting debut. And quite frankly, somebody could get very famous in an acting debut. And there's 13 million people on earth that are as good as an actor as that guy. They're all over the place. They've seen him. They had 55 people try out for that part. And, the lucky thing, your number came up. And then it turned out it wasn't even supposed to be that big a movie. But it turned out, oh my God, that, the fate of the world shined on you. Somebody wrote an incredible score to a movie. The actress that was opposite you was tremendous. And it turns out that you look great when the truth is that you're a freaking journeyman actor with nothing else going. And then what happens? You're a star. Okay. You have no idea. You've never had that much success before. Yeah, you were okay in summer stock and people patted you on your head and your mother thought you were good and took some little fancy pictures and put them on the wall and said, look at my son. He was at summer stock in Ashland. Okay. But the bottom line is that you didn't see this coming. And so now what are you going to do? And it's like, you got an agent and we're fielding offers and you're looking at these things and it's like, oh, you're supposed to play opposite a monkey. Like, why? Because there's something cute about you in the first one. You don't know what to do. And so you can see the lure of, drugs behind this, not as a conscious, deliberate, and 100% motivational force. Hell, you were open anyway, and there's people around, and people are trying to get close to you because you're cool. And here's cocaine, and the cute girl does it, and maybe you're gonna you can see the whole thing, but you can also see that the ego trap could be an additional motivational force of self-destruction. Okay, it's a complicated vector analysis to try to figure out what is your best move in life, and the ego trap is a countervailing force that is part of a motivational option that will cause self-destructive behavior. And so, of course, it would be. Okay, you could see it, you can smell it. I watch it in myself. In other words, in my processes over many years, since the couple of decades since I recognized the ego trap formally, I recognized the underlying mathematical and evolutionary logic, 20 years ago. And and I could watch it. I could watch it even in little tiny events. I watched it. There was a premiere for Forks Over Knives, and they invited me to it, and the guy there was saying, "Oh, here's Doug Lisle, and he's really funny." And it's like, you just put a bunch of pressure on me because I'm not inherently really funny. Okay, I can tell a good story. I'm a good speaker. If I'm prepared, etc. But it doesn't just freaking naturally come out of me. I'm not one of these witty people. You put Alan up there, and Goldhammer's pretty freaking witty. Without trying, he's just so freaking sarcastic, and he walks around in a character, and it just comes out of his mouth. Quite frankly, Nathan, you're wittier than I am. We've talked a bunch, and you have little stuff that just comes up. I don't. Okay. But if I planned it, you know what I mean? If I have a process, if I got my slides, I'm good at a shtick. So I can tell a story. But I remember he's putting this pressure on me, and there's two or three of us up there, and I'm like, and I'm totally laying an egg on this thing. And then finally I got a moment and I said something funny and everybody cracked up, and it's like, and the guy says, "Well, there it is." Like, you son of a bitch. So anyway, the ego trap. LeBron James, beat your jeans. Bronny. I'll be looking over this question. I'll be watching this kid. I will put my eyes on him this year, as many people will. Um, I'll be rooting for him because I will know what burden he's carrying, and I will forever have a disgust for LeBron, that for his own little giddy moment of shine, to be on it, to be the one NBA player in world history the only one that ever did it. This is just freaking LeBron James status seeking. That shitty decision, you know what I mean? You can't take with that one back. He blew it. But this kid, because of what I believe is a very strong character, he will he will not be in the ego trap. He'll be in ego trap little moments when he's wide open because they leave him open for a 3-pointer. Okay, he's going to have a bunch of a billion dendrites are going to fire as he thinks, "Oh shit, the world's watching me, and they're going to say Ronnie James can't shoot, and he's not like his dad. He shouldn't be here." And in that freaking little moment, there's going to be turbulence inside that nervous system that's going to make him a poorer shooter than he otherwise would have been. Okay, he's going to have to put up with that, and that's fine. That's part of the price. But I'm rooting for the kid. I think he's going to be okay. But I think, to parents out there, don't do this. You know what I mean? If you want to do anything, you want to insult your child and tell them you don't think they can do it. That is an infinitely better strategy. Okay. You want them in a position where, and quite frankly, those insults work, and I'll do it with people in my practice. They will work even though they know what we're doing. I will explain to people the entire ego trap, and then I will insult them, and they'll laugh, but they'll find themselves still reacting like I'm gonna have to show you. It's like, "No, I don't think you can do it. I don't think I would bother if I were you." And it's an amazing, complicated little process where it actually gives them both relief, it gets them out of the ego trap, and it actually pushes them a little motivational impulses to want to prove to me, even though they know what I'm doing. So you can be a parent and you can do that with your kid. Like, "No, I don't think you can do it." And they can know that you're kind of lying because you kind of think that they can, but it is still a beautiful thing that takes pressure off people. And so you don't have to be, there's been times in my career where I absolutely have anti-ego trap people through subtle insults, and I sold it to them like I meant it. And, I was careful. I was watching to make sure I wasn't demoralizing them. But I watched, I did that specifically to try to actually fire up a motivation to prove me wrong. Okay. And that works. That will work. Okay. So, but then I've had people later say, "Well, I think that's what you did to me when you."
You can't
So
win.
it gets to be it can get to be kind of complicated, but mostly what I do with people is I explain to them the trap and then I goad them in a very friendly fashion out of it. Okay. And so for any young clinicians out there or parents, that's a good strategy to do that, is to say, listen, I don't want to put expectations too high. I feel like the expectations are too high. And you feel like that if you don't do this, that I'm going to be disappointed. And that's not true. So I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't think you can do it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so, and we play with it that way. That's very warm, and then it puts the kid or the young person in a position where they feel like they don't have that much to lose, which is exactly where we want. Okay.
All right, that's it for this episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Sure do appreciate everybody who liked, commented, shared, and subscribed to the channel. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode. In the meantime, again, if you have any questions, you can write to me through my email or through the website. Thanks, and see you next time.